So this one is going to be pretty herb intensive. I wanted to get to more of the, for me, there's no easy way to do like a brain, like it just really depends on you. And so I'd really love us to kind of, I don't know what the right word is for it, but the word I'm going to use is like workshop what might be helpful for you all, so that you guys can start building out. So we can take Renee's 1,000 pounds of herbs and put them into something. So kind of thinking the whole time, I did indicate if something can be used as mostly a tea or preferably a tincture. And then there's a few that you can use both. And so having both of those on hand is always helpful. So we're going to be covering the actions of the the nervous system tonight. The energetics are going to be mixed in, and then we'll talk about mood boosting herbs, neurobines and brain health, and a little bit on sedatives and sleeping. So we'll talk a little bit about those processes. And yeah, and then we'll just ask questions. This is one of those that it's a lot of, in a good way, it's a lot of herbals that we can grow, but it's also one of those chances to really have you guys start thinking about what you have, what you resonate with, and seeing if we can come up with formulations to help with acute anxiety or long-term formulations, or even just knowing what you want to have on hand versus tea versus tincture versus whatever else. So, all right, I'm going to get started, and it's going to work great. Nope. There it is. Can you guys see my screen? We're good. Now I just have to click through everything and, all right. So we just kind of did our check-ins and updates. So we do have class this weekend on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it, to be outside. It's supposed to be pretty nice. It's going to get up to 88s, but the humidity from what I peaked at was not too bad, but we'll see. We're also going to talk about nervous system and herbal actions. Oh, I did want to say we probably will start at 9:30 if that works for everybody. Lily's our biggest X factor, but she kind of knows the drill at this point.
We're going to start at what time? I'm sorry.
9:30.
9:30. Okay.
Yeah, so we're not just sitting in the heat, and y'all can unheat and still have a weekend or still have an evening. Yeah. So nervous system, herbal actions, and nervous systems, herbs you can grow. There's a few herbs that they're not easy to grow, I will say. Like they're not something, it's not that they're not easy to grow, it's hard to find the plants, but we have resources for that. And one of them is Bacopa and Goticola, but those are fun plants that you can grow both indoors and outdoors. And so I love to kind of talk about that and have that. They both like to be wet though, but we'll get there. And I did say recipes for brain health, and then I kind of eliminated that because by the time we get done with all the herbs, there's not any tasty recipes, but we're going to start, we can, like I said, workshop that. I'm getting eaten alive. Workshop that so that way you guys can start developing things for your own health. And then because we're having kind of a spirit, mood, fun connection day, we're going to have some bonbons. So we'll make some bonbons, or because I have my ashwagandha finally, we'll make some herb bonbons. So it's like basically taking nut butters and chocolates or one of our cocos, mixing that in with a few of the other powders so we can play a little bit. So cool. Oh, look at me clicking in the right ways. Feels fancy. All right, I'm going to close your faces because you're super cute, but I'll start just looking at what you're doing. So just raise your hands if you have any questions, because I did kind of tuck you guys away in the corner. So our nervous system is filled with the connections that it takes to make every single function in our body systems work. It's a lot of responsibility. And if our control center is off, not through the right diet, lack of sleep, or stress, it can cause long-term cognitive and even like day-to-day issues. Besides helping us function truly, it also has emotional sides too. Our dreams, emotions, and memories and desires are always just a neuron away. Oh, and I'm gonna watch my strange frustration. I'm just not sure if I'm getting the debt. So one of the big things that I always like to talk about, we'll cover this on every single system, is really diet and lifestyles. I'm pretty sure you guys are educated enough to know that, you know, when our bodies are stressed, our cognitive function depletes. And so managing our stress levels is one of the biggest things that we can do for diet or for lifestyle with our brain health and mental health. So getting a really good deep sleep, at least 8 hours. I'm one of those people that I'll take 8 hours, but I'd love to have 9 hours. And as I get older, it's kind of creeping up. Naps are another way to add in a little more sleep. So that's one of those. Reducing your stress through meditation or exercise or dancing, whatever makes you happy, is a good way to do it. I think that's one of the biggest thing is, like, you know, when I'm asking people that don't sleep, I'm like, so tell me about your stress level. Has it increased? Has it decreased? Most of the time they're increasing. They've changed a new job. They've been under chronic stress for years. And trauma is another thing that can also affect our brain and mental health. And so that's where herbs can support, but they can't really help. So if somebody has gone through something pretty traumatic, we always want to recommend that before we do herbs, that they get in some sort of counseling or body work or something to release the trauma. And so that way the herbs, you know, I've had this happen with people that have PTSD. You know, well, can you help my husband? Can you help my boyfriend? You know, and it's one of those conversations where you're like, is he in therapy? Does he have, you know, any way to get that anger or that grief or the long-term effects of PTSD out? And then the herbs can start to help, which I find wonderful. But we always want to be a little bit cautious when we're recommending herbs to people that have these kind of more significant mental strains. But having that kind of energy there, you know, you can always kind of use things that will help. You know, I love to use with folks that have that kind of stuff that aren't sleeping. I'll use their lavender salve or something that's kind of, it's at least it's not a panacea because it does work a little bit, but it's at least something you can give to whoever's, because it's usually a gift and it's usually for a meal. Put this on his feet every night and see if that helps. And then they come back and then we can start working with that. But for our own personal brains, our diet is one of the best ways to support our brain health. We really want to have a really healthy blend of fats and healthy proteins. I tend to recommend that people have some sort of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in their diets. So those are, you know, sometimes you can get those from plants through like flaxseed oil, or even hard to find evening oil. And I don't think I ever Renee, can you put this down in your list to message you guys about the evening primrose oil? Because that's one of those that it's starting to come and pop, the evening primroses. So to be able to harvest those seeds and make your own infused oil, you may get those omega fatty acids.
And that's something that I'd be, and I should probably mute myself here, I realize, but that I should, the evening primrose that I have, again, it's like, it bloomed earlier this summer and now it's, yeah. So I need to know what to do with it. So at this time of the year.
Yeah. For months.
You're breaking.
They turn. Am I breaking up?
Would it help you if we all shut down our video so it's not, your system's not processing our video maybe? Is she there? I'm going to shut my video
I'm here.
off.
I was gonna say, if you guys don't mind shutting your video off, we'll try it that way. I have one more option, but it might be a pause. So let me know if it's a decent connection. You guys can see the slides.
I can see the slides and I could hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you're moving now and I can hear you again.
Okay, Cool. All right. So yeah, so that's one of those that I love. I just learned about it from a friend. And so using the seeds of the evening primrose is a great way to add those healthy fats into your diet. The other plants that have it are purslane. So I love using that. And some of our other plants have a little bit of omega. I'm trying to remember which one it is. I just blanked on it. Anyways, so there's a few herbs, but mostly we're getting that from high quality oils, you know, added in afterwards. Or I really love ghee. Ghee's a nice one also to add some really good fats. So culinary herbs are one of the easiest ways to add these herbs for brain health. So, and things like sage or rosemary or basils, all of those are antioxidants, and I consider them brain fuel. And so they're really kind of helping open up those passageways. Plus they're just kind of cleaning out the body from long-standing issues. So kind of thyme's another one, oregano, all of those are really great for brain health because it has that free radical damage fighting and all of that. So I already talked about that. Complete proteins. I know we do have some vegans here, but eating things that are like legumes with seeds, healthy meats, and then also I'm a big egg fan. So eggs are another great way. Having not a high in protein diet, but a decent amount of proteins is really going to help balance everything out. Low sugar, I mean, this is one of those that they're really finding, and even false sugars I should put there too, you know, the sweetened loaves and stuff like those. Those are all neurodisruptors. That's the hardest thing. It's like there's so many, I'm talking just generalization on a whole food diet, but there's all these neurotoxins that are in our world, you know, that are colors and, you know, all the red dyes and exotoxins and all these things that we're exposed to. But sugar is another thing that we can actually help ourselves to avoid. So it aggravates inflammation, which can worsen mood and mood swings. Who hasn't had a 13-year-old rage system after they eat an entire pound of gummy bears? I had one of those the other day. It's like that moment of like, what did you eat today? And he's like, I had this whole thing of gummy bears. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no. So that's one of them. I put plant-based diet there, but I think that was from last time, but just foods that fill you up and really make you feel healthy. What do I click? Just go over here gently. Nervous system's actions and energetics. All right, so you're going to start here. You know, these words you've heard a bunch of them, but these are, again, one of those that we really want to like internalize a little bit more so that when you're thinking about plants and their actions, you can kind of think about how they affect the body. And you'll see when we're talking about the actual plants, there's a lot of them that have multiple ones of these on there. But the adaptogen, so we talked a little bit about this last time, and I know I've mentioned it before. I say it's a substance, but the substance just really means any herb that assists a living organism to adapt to the environmental, physical, or psychological stress. I often talk about my herbal journey. One of my biggest allies still is Tulsi basil. It was one of those plants that I was called to, and that's the only word I know, to try. And it was a little tea bag by Organic India in my nutrition classes that I would just, every day I would drink it instead of coffee because no one was drinking coffee. And I was like, what are wrong with these people? And kind of got that whole like energy, focus, and feeling really supportive, and could feel my stress levels coming down through just having this cup of tea every day. But there's a lot of plants that are adaptogens. Now there are a lot of plants that are said are adaptogens, but really aren't adaptogens yet. And a lot of times those are great. They're more superfoods and don't really have that adaptogenic option where they're actually helping to balance out hormones through the environmental, physical, or psychological stress. And so there's just a little bit of a difference. If you wanted more information on actual adaptogens that have been tested David Winston's newest edition of adaptogens book covers. There's only, I think there's only 22 actual ones, and then there's a bunch of other ones. A lot of them are going to be based in the Ayurvedic tradition, so ashwagandha, astragalus, tulsi basil, I think bacopa is one. Sasandra, so all of those, and the and Shardavari is another one that's a great adaptogen. So you'll see them on there. For us, our biggest adaptogens are ginsengs. And I'm not going to talk about those tonight because they're really hard to grow. So unless you have a really credible source, our ginsengs are over harvested, very expensive, and often I use those when people are really depleted. So after cancer, or they're going through fatigue, what is it called? Fatigue, or an immune condition, or stuff like that. So like I call them the bigger ones. I will say though, if I do have a couple roots of ginseng that I just keep kind of munching on and throwing them back into their vodka. So I'm not sure if it's the vodka or them, but they just kind of help me focus. So we're always looking for anti-inflammatories in any body system. So how can we bring the inflammation response? So anti-inflammatory is any agent, food, herb, spice, which reduces inflammation, and in doing so inhibits chronic degenerative disease. Many inflammatories also act as immunoregulatory herbs. These are things like turmeric, sage, rosemary. So all of those that kind of have that anti-inflammatory properties. Another one that I loved, well, we talked about this last time. Yeah, I'm going to hold off on that because I was going to say hibiscus, but that's not really that's more for the cardiovascular system. And then we have our antioxidants, which we're going to talk a lot about today. So natural compounds that are produced in plants that react and neutralize free radicals, reducing oxidative stress and inflammation. And when we say the natural compounds, we're really talking about the constituents that are in there that are really kind of going in there and neutralizing and helping our bodies kind of flush out the oxidation and free radicals that are causing us harm.
Is hawthorn something
the
that
anxiolytics, so they reduce anxiety and they calm the mind and body. I often talk about these as calming the shen. And so you'll see that now, and that's really calming the spirit, you know, the rising, the anger, the frustration, that energy that just causes you out of balance. So a nervine is an herb that is mildly calming or soothing to the effects on the nerves. So those, we've already talked about linden, but tonight we'll go deeper into skullcap, fresh oat, coca-cola, everything we're talking about pretty much this weekend. Tonight is a nervine. A nootropic. These are one of my favorite ones, and these are fun ones to kind of play with. I call them play herbs. Not only playing with them to figure out what works for you. I always say, like, try the herbs yourself before you're like handing them out to other people. An herb that enhances cerebral circulation, memory, focus, and cognitive function. Most, if not all, nootropics act as neuroprotective agents, neuro-anti-inflammatories, and often relieve anxiety, brain fog, or depression. So holy basil, bacopa, rosemary, Chinese polygala, that one's a little more intense. A tofu restorative, and so we talked about this last time. There's not very many of these. So the one we'll be primarily talking about tonight is the fresh oats. So those are one of the only plants that can actually bring tonify and bring the organ back, including the brain function. Now it's going to help with things like Alzheimer's or
Can anyone else hear her?
No, I lost it about a minute ago, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna go do my watering and I will be back. Can you guys let her know?
Yes, will do.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I think we just lost Colleen.
Yeah, I think so. So I'll leave
Yeah.
myself on here, and I'll try to figure it out when I get back.
Okay, I'll let her know. Hi, Renee.
Hi, how are you?
She just
I'm
sent
good.
us something in, hold on, she sent us a message here. Hold on. Hello.
Hello.
We are still still on the Zoom. We'll see. Okay, I'll let you guys take it from there. She's there. I'm gonna go while I can, while you guys are figuring this out.
Okay. I can't hear, oh, I got it, okay. Should we message her or what?
Oh, it looks like she's writing something. Okay, can you see me and hear me? Or she just wrote a message to ask if we could see and hear her, or if she was gone. So I just wrote back, "You are gone."
You're gone. How long are you at the beach?
I am here until Friday morning, and then I'm gonna come back to the area on Friday.
That's cool. I
Um,
haven't been
I-
on vacation.
I wanted to let you know, I'll show you pictures on Saturday, but I got shishito peppers out. Oh, it thought I was doing a thumbs up. I guess I am. I I had shishito peppers come up, and the other peppers are doing good too. So I think that I realized that I needed to move the tomato plants to a different spot. So hopefully I'll get some fruit. But yeah, the peppers are doing great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, you're welcome. I had the tomatoes, mine just started setting fruit in the last, I don't know, couple weeks, because it was so hot for so long that they just keep dropping their little blossoms and they don't set any fruit. So I didn't have any fruit set until, I mean, I still haven't gotten any full-size tomatoes. I mean, I think this week I just got my first, like, I guess they're kind of like Roma or Amish paste. They're
Mhm.
smaller paste tomatoes,
Mhm.
but I haven't gotten any slicer tomatoes this year.
Mhm.
And I'm disappointed. I'm like, what is wrong? My plants look beautiful, but no
Yeah,
tomatoes.
it's hard. I mean, it's been so rainy, or it feels, and this is my first full season in the area, but it seems like there's been a lot more rain, and it's been really hot. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the rain has been good because it's kept everything kind of consistently growing, and I haven't had to water a lot this year, which is great because I don't have irrigation. But the heat, as much as like the peppers really love the heat, but both
Mhm.
peppers and tomatoes will just drop their blossoms when it's like over 90.
Mm-hmm. How is your garden doing over? Oh, there's Colleen.
Here she comes. There you
Hi.
are.
Hey, we're just gabbing
You're
about
back.
tomatoes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, great.
I'll turn my
Great.
video off. So Mindy went out and she'll be back. But she's just gonna
Okay.
keep her video on. Okay.
Just curious, before you do that, what's the last thing you heard or remember?
I was making notes
No,
about
you were talking
the.
about Alzheimer's.
Sorry, go ahead.
What part was I talking
You're
about?
good.
Oh, the last thing I took
Alzheimer's.
notes on was the tropho restorative, the like tonifying, nervine
wanna-
stuff.
No worries. I went on for 3 more minutes, so it was great. Oh,
Shoot.
so frustrating. I didn't even realize you guys were gone. So that was the moment. So And then I kept trying to get back in, but I was doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, there was like a silent minute, and then we realized that you were gone.
It was gone. She was gone.
If it happens again, I'll just text you right away.
Okay, yeah, I just pulled it up. So sorry. Let me just put this on and then I will can you see the screen, guys? Or did I not hit the button yet?
Yes. I can, we can't see the full screen, just you.
Oh, that's a pretty picture right there. All right.
And your cat in the window.
Oh, yes. They are. They're friendly. I'm sorry. Let me just give me 1 second here. All right. Okay, cool. So I didn't get too much farther, so that's good. Let's see if I'm gonna expand this one. So the tofu restorative is one of those is a magical plant, let's call it that, because that's kind of what I was getting to, that nourishes, strengthens, and tonifies a specific organ or function. And so it's like food for the organ. And so for the nervous system, we're mostly going to be talking about oats, because fresh oats, and we're going to be picking them and planting them. So that'll be fun. And then Shen is the Chinese to the mind and consciousness, which is, there's no good word that I can come up with in the English language that says kind of the same thing, but it's like that spirit mind connection. So it's that balancing.
I'm
So when
back for.
Huh?
I'm back.
So good. Welcome.
Just want to let you know.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so it's that balance. I just did that for you, Mindy, by the way. My internet crapped out because of you. But yeah, it's that balance. It's that sense when somebody says, like when I feel like flighty or spacey, I'm like, oh, my body's not contained in, my mind and spirit aren't contained in my little body. And so that's kind of disturbing the Shen. Plants for the nervous system, brain and nervous system. So we're trying to talk a little bit about nervous system tonics. And I think we've mentioned tonics. I hope we have mentioned tonics before, but tonics are things that we're going to take on a daily basis. So it's not something that's acute. It's not something that, like I cut my hand and I need help with this wound. It's not, I have diarrhea, I need help with the diarrhea. This is herbs that are going to support our body on a daily basis. And so nervous system tonics can be both tinctures or teas or even like capsules. So like I take a daily thyroid capsule because I cannot drink a tea that is bladderwort, and that's the best way to get it. Like I can't do it. Me and seaweeds, we do not get along. So that's kind of a way to think about nervous system tonics. So things you can take on a daily basis to really kind of build you up, make you feel supported. And then I often tell people to like start with your tonics and then reevaluate them after 4 months. How do you feel? Do you feel stronger? Do you feel more supported? Like a lot of times when I put horsetail or nettles into people's formulations, they're like, my hair grew like 3 inches. And I'm like, I know, like, and they just feel more supported. Their bodies are really kind of moving into that balanced direction. And sometimes we'll do tonics on a seasonal basis. So like, say you're one of those folks that always in the your immune system, you're like Mindy, you're a teacher, so you're exposed all the time. So maybe in the fall, you're going to head towards the tonic that is warming of the body and kind of has an immuno boost. That's not going to interfere with anything. So it's not going to be too much. But elderberry is a great, immune tonic versus echinacea, where you're only going to take it for a couple weeks. Elderberry is one of those tonic herbs that you can take on a daily basis to really support the system. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit with the Brain Health with Mint Family Magic. That's the name of our band. You guys are all invited. I can't wait to hear it. But these are most of the aromatic plants. So it's that smell that kind of wakes you up, gives you that energy. Most of the mints, peppermint, lemon balm, and these are kind of what I say the bones of the herbalist garden. You know, these are the things that, like, you know that you have peppermint outside, you can run out there and grab it. You know that you have sage, you know that you have rosemary. I put catnip in there because that's another one of those mint family magic herbs that I actually didn't put in the thing, but catnip's one of those that I really love to use to help people calm down. Chamomile and catnip are really a great herb for really helping children or elderly just kind of calm down, get grounded, and be able to sleep, especially if they've had an anxious day. It also works really well with you all too. Mint family magic. I already have the first song. So herbs to consider for a brain tea, for teeth. Lemon balm, Melissa officinalis. You can refer to her as Melissa, make it weird. But this is one of those plants where it's a mood elevator. It's also an anxiolytic, so it's going to really help with nervous system energy, balancing it and finding its place. I often tell people, like, if their nervous system energy is in their head, like they're just like constantly like thinking too much, overwhelmed thoughts, hysteria or paranoia, lemon balm is a great one to add into there. But it's also wonderful for seasonal affective disorder. Often use it with St. John's wort, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's useful for treating mild to moderate depression, insomnia, reducing Alzheimer's symptoms because it is an antioxidant, like it has antioxidant properties, so it really kind of helps with that. Generalized anxiety disorder, impaired cognitive function from strokes or whatever, exhaustion. It also is wonderful for PMS, irritability, anxiety. I always put it with hysteria and acute stress. And I think I've told you guys this story, but just in case I haven't, one of the ways that I learned about lemon balm was, one, people often say that it's it is. If you have Hashimoto's or an autoimmune thyroid disorder, this is not your herb. You can have a cup of lemon balm tea. It's not going to drive you crazy, but you're not going to use this as a tonic tea. You're not going to drink it on a daily basis because it does increase thyroid function. The other cool, so with the hysteria point was that in World War I and II, this was one of those remedies that women would have in brandy on their windowsills for when they had the despair, you know, like their husbands or their kids or whatever had, you know, whatever else had happened, or just that trauma. So they'd drink the lemon balm. It was probably a cordial, but have that on their thing so that when this whatever happened, whatever terrible things happened, they would have this herbal support. And a cup of lemon balm tea often just kind of, you know, I often do lemon balm and peppermint just to like, just get my mind and body and energy back in the afternoons. Peppermint and spearmint, now they have a lot of other properties, so I don't want to like just put this on there, but I do love a good cup of peppermint or spearmint tea to brighten the mind and help with concentration and memory. It's one of those that even if you have a headache or something like that, you know, we tried to use it with Valentina. Little did we know she was feeling even worse than we thought she was. But yeah, so using that for concentration and memory can be used in kids and adults, which is wonderful. The only caution with peppermint or spearmint or any is that you don't want to use it with somebody that has reflux. I always want to stress this because we don't want to exacerbate anybody's condition. But this is one of those that you got to keep on it. The other cool thing about lemon balm and spearmint and peppermint is that they are radioprotective, meaning like if you are going in and getting lots of, you know, like say a mammogram, this is a great plant to have afterwards to help with any kind of chelation of any whatever that's in there that they put in there. That's supposed to be, you know, super safe, but like I'm more like, get that crap out of my body. And even the radiation.
Is there any difference between the effects of peppermint or spearmint? Because like I really like peppermint, but I really don't like spearmint.
Yeah, so peppermint tends to be a little more cooling, which makes sense with your body type. And spearmint's a little more warming. So I tend to gravitate towards spearmint. I don't know why. It's also flavor preference too. I mean, my dad, had the dentine gum in his truck, so I remember that. It was always spearmint. But yeah, it's preference, but there is spearmint is a little more warming, and peppermint's a little more cooling.
Okay.
And like in that, like preferences, it's really, I'll always have, when I'm making a formulation for somebody, I'll have them sniff the peppermint and the spearmint to see. That's kind of a nice indication on which one they might go towards. Lemongrass and lemon verbena, Alicia Citrodora, and nope, don't want to say his name, Sympogion citronus. So both of these are, again, great synergists. I often pair these with other herbs. If I'm making a really lemony tea, with lemon balm and lemongrass, and maybe put hibiscus in there. People like that are lemony people that are like, oh my God, this is amazing. But it's really bright, those bright uplifting flavors immediately draw you up. So even just rubbing a piece of lemon verbena between your fingers, I have it in my cup tonight, just kind of like helps to lift your spirit up. It is modestly stimulating to the nervous system and often paired with other brainy herbs for synergistic effects. The other brainy herbs that it might pair well with are things like wood betony or St. John's wort or gotu kola, which can be a little bit bitter. But if you really have somebody that's not going to take a tincture and you want to make them a nice tea that's kind of, they'll hit it on the back end. They might hit a little bitter note on the back end, but they'll take it. Lemongrass and lemon verbena are a great one to have. And both of them are so easy to dry, and that's why I love them. And you cannot get the quality that you can grow. Like you just can't. Like when I have to buy commercial lemongrass, which I don't do anymore, but when I was first starting, I'd be like, I can't find lemongrass. But it was like that thing, you'd open up the bag and you'd be like, it smells lemony, but dusty, which is not the smell you want. So using your olfactory senses, I think that's it, to really make sure that things smell the way you want them to smell. The other one that I wanted to throw in here was other things like lemon basil or lime basil. Those also work really well for that synergistic and uplifting effect. Those two both do have a little more immunoboosting compounds in them. So they're going to help boost the immune system a little bit. And they're really tasty. Holy basil, which is kind of like, I'm just going to say it it's definitely a brain herb. It's also an immune herb. Like it just has so many beautiful ways to help the body. It's not for everybody for sure, but it is often for a lot of people. So it's offering focus. It's an antioxidant, and it's an adaptogen. So it's going to help you with your fight and flight response, which is a good thing to have. And I will say that, like, if anything, if you taste it and you're like, this is not my herb, like, I don't like it at all, it makes me feel weird, then it's not your herb, and that's fine. There's other herbs we can play with. Again, most of the herbs we're covering tonight are herbs you can grow in your backyard or harvest outside. Herbs to consider for tinctures. Milky oat is a beautiful plant. The thing that I've learned about milky oats is that it does need to get harvested fresh. And when you are harvesting it, it should be squeezable and there should be milk coming out. So you want milky stage oats. This is really the TOFO restorative action of it. So that milky stage actually will help we talk about it as like actually helping soothe the synapses. So when things aren't firing right, or just like, like I can't do it. This is the one that if you burn both candles at both, candles at both ends. I was like, both candles at both ends. Yes. Like all of that. If you're not able to sleep, you're worn out, you're just really in that depleted zone. Milky oat seed is one of my favorite ones. And the other cool thing, you can take it even if that's not your system. Like you're like, I just want a little extra brain health. I just want a little more calm. We just made this as a glycerite, because a glycerite, using vegetable glycerin, because we wanted it for kiddos that have ADHD or high anxiety. It's just really calming and relaxing.
Colleen, this weekend, when I see you Saturday, do you have, you just described where I'm at right now. So,
Yeah, we definitely have. I would say the tincture is more effective.
okay.
Have the tincture.
So I need you to fix me. I hadn't, and I know we're recording. So I'll tell you why after we're done recording.
Why don't I just pause it right now? Go ahead.
No, I think I told you when we were all together the last time my sister was sick.
Mhm.
I think. Yeah, we lost her. She's so
Oh, Mindy, I'm
so-
sorry.
so I've been and it's more stressful because it's all kind of strange, like generational trauma kind of stuff going on. But I'm flying out Sunday to LA for her memorial service on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And like the closer I get to that, the more weird I get. So I'm realizing. So Saturday, I'm looking forward to this and I'm absolutely coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but any kind of things like that, because I'm starting to come unglued a little bit. So
Yeah. And we'll talk about a couple other herbs that will help with that too.
okay,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
so sorry for your loss though. Mindy, that's a lot.
thanks.
Things are heavy right now. And that's, it's like, I feel bad because it's
They
just
are.
losing things and people that we don't want to lose.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Well, that's why we're here. Herbs can help us process through this. They're not going to process through all the grief and everything that we needed to, but it is one of those moments where you're like, this will actually help me. And it will.
Good.
That's the beautiful thing.
Okay.
So didn't want you to have to put it into action this weekend though, but we'll help you out as much as we can.
Okay, good.
We resume this. All right. So herbs to consider. Oh, we already did that. Gotu kola, Centella I can't say it. Exotica. This one is one of my favorite herbs. Oh man. So not only is it great for memory, cognitive function, it's so beautiful to work with anxiety in elder people. A lot of times with elderly, they're on a ton of meds. I can't do much, but I can give them Gotu kola, which just brings me so much joy. It's just like that edges. And there's such an edginess about this time that Gotu kola she kind of rounds out and soothes out. And she's not sedative. We're going to talk about some of the sedative herbs, but this one's nice. The problem with Gotu kola is that most of our Gotu kola is coming out of India. Most of it is polluted or even Asia. And so it's really hard to find really good Gotu kola. I have a company called Cinnamon Organics in Baltimore that I work with. They have not been able to get their Gotu kola from their organic source in 2 years, but they promised me this year I'll get my Gotu kola back. And I do get it powdered a lot of times, and I'll tincture the powder so that I have it that way. We do grow it, and Michelle does have it in her garden. So I'd love when we go harvest this weekend to just have you guys taste it, and then we'll be able to take it home. It actually winters over and is a great house plant. So I love I went to a friend's house, I'm in their bathroom, and I'm like, they have this gorgeous, like flowing plant of Gotu kola. And I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. So using it that way. I did put turmeric in here. One of the things that I have learned is although turmeric via food additive is wonderful, we actually get more of the active properties in turmeric through a tincture because we're actually pulling all of those antioxidants and anti-inflammatories out in a better way. I often pair this with a little bit of cayenne or a little bit of black pepper for the synergy, but it's also uptake. Well, I lost the word, but anyways, the uptake into the system. So you'll actually get more of that. And just having that kind of general, turmeric supporting pretty much every one of our body systems. It's such an amazing plant, and it's not overly warming. So somebody like me who tends to run hot already, turmeric actually, if you put ginger and turmeric together, then I have to wait till winter, but turmeric I can take all year round. And our turmeric plants look amazing. So it'll be fun to see when we harvest all of those. Thank you, Renee. Bacopa monera. This is another one of those plants that again is hard to find, but it's one of our best plants for memory and focus. We have a compound at the shop called Clarity Compound. And I actually helped my husband with this because he was a football player. And so who knows, in his teenage and, young 20 years. And so his little brain has gotten dented and I don't want to say demented because that's the wrong connotation, but it is like, is that a brain injury issue? And it probably is. And so we use Bacopa, and which it has Gotu-Kola and Bacopa and a few other like milky oats and a few other things that I just love because he will take it. Ashwagandha is another one. Now it says for weak, depleted, fatigue people with anemia, or infertility, or fibromyalgia. But really, this one's great for anybody with disturbed Shen. So insomnia, people that are just undernourished. And undernourished meaning like they just can't sleep. Like they're undernourished from not getting enough sleep. And we use this for people that have shift schedules, or nurses, or on their feet, or people that can't wind down. The one thing that I always want to say with this one, it is in the Solanaceae family. So if you do have a tendency towards having inflammation around the Solanaceae family, this might be something you want to just test out and make sure it doesn't make your inflammation worse. And this one is an adaptogen. And I do love it. So we have it powdered, we have it in chunks, we have it, any way we possibly can. And this we have chunks from a local farmer that's growing it. Oh, the other cool thing about ashwagandha, actually, is that it's also a connective tissue repairer. So connective tissues are ligaments and tendons. It really can help with those, both topically and internally. I always have to add a little bit of mushrooms in here, even though most of them do help with our nervous system. I love to talk about the reishi mushroom, the Ganadura luceum. They do grow in the park. They love to grow off of the old hemlocks that have dropped, or on the hemlocks that are still alive. But it's a deep-seated baseline is what I call it. So it's a nervine and calming adaptation used for anxious people with stress-induced systems. We're not going to say type A, but it's often the people that are like either in traumatic situations or they're bringing it on themselves. Like they're just wired tight. And there's a couple other herbs that we'll talk about for that. Reishi, you can also use it in a tea or a decoction because all of our mushrooms need to be cooked with water in order to pull out the constituents that we want in our bodies. They have a ton of polysaccharides, so oftentimes they get a little bit foamy. So we'll boil those and get them. We usually boil them and then we'll decoct them and then we'll add alcohol. And we'll go through a mushroom tincture just because they're so important to have. I do want to say if you're taking like a mushroom supplement, either through the coffees or whatever, do make sure that they are processing them through, like they actually have to cook them before they powder them. Because if they're just powdering them, basically what's happening is you're just eating very expensive fiber. So I'm not going to go on my ranties there. And then we have our mood boosting, or I'm sorry, any questions about the herbs we just talked about? Mood boosting herbs. And so these are the ones that go ahead.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. The ashwagandha, because I've been fascinated about that, that. But you mentioned the inflammation, like
yes,
what kind of, just general inflammation, or what does it do? Like, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I do have, at my age, I do have to be careful with inflammation.
Yeah. So with ashwagandha and inflammation, so anytime we talk about people that have autoimmune disease, there's sensitivities there, but with this one, if it's like, so I have a little hint of this right now because I'm eating so many tomatoes, like I have those little sores in my mouth. from eating too many of them. It's driving me crazy. And if I eat too much, so like I say, I basically have a ratatouille, my fingers will swell. Like they're not even swelling. It's more like just a really tightness when I wake up in the morning. And that's
Okay.
kind of a little red flag that you might have a solanaceae inflammation. And that's a really fun one to test, because you get to like eat, have a Bloody Mary, ratatouille, and then, something else, and then a glass of ashwagandha. And, yeah, so it's more that tightness. But it can also work on the other side where it can reduce the inflammation too. But it's just, there's some people that have more sensitivity to the Solanaceae family.
Okay, so you just kind of test it out and see, like for me, if something is creating inflammation, it's my ankles, like I do the cankle thing.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
would be the trigger, and if it's not doing it, then it's fine.
Yeah, and like I said, just test it out. But for most
Okay.
people, it makes you feel fine. The
Okay.
biggest thing is the people that, and the hard thing is right now is not the season to test it, because I think most of us are eating something in some way, shape, or form. So like a tomato or a pepper or eggplant
Right.
or other good things. So I was watching a foraging video the other night, and they led me down the path of watching the poison nightshade, the dark one. I can't remember what it's called, the one that's like wild. And he was just popping those berries, saying that they're actually not poisonous. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I don't want to try that. Not it. So, all right. So mood boosting herbs. And again, caveats on this, of course. Are you looking for this? You really want to look at symptom patterns. Is it occasional comfort that's needed? For example, if they're just having a hard day and they want a cup of chamomile tea, that's not necessarily a mood booster. Like Tulsi's one that I use to boost moods. Lemon balm's another one. So they just sort of like, oh, I'm feeling a little like I had a tough day. I really need something to help me kind of stay on the happy side. Or is it grief? And grief is another one that can set differently in the body. It's a little deeper, it's a little sharper. We want to use these mood boosting herbs to not mitigate the grief part of it. It's more to support the whole body through that. Is it depression? And then also we always want to say, like, if it's non-functioning because of stress or trauma, that's, get them into therapy. They need to go into therapy before I won't work with anyone that's not in therapy and that has they're not functioning or they're self-harming. There's no herb that I can give to work through the mental. Once they're there, yes, but until they get there, I tend to not be an enabler around that. There's so many herbs that are anxiolytic, and most of the time they're nourishing to the body and also affecting the pathways of the brains for that brightening, that boosting. It also works, a lot of the adaptation herbs are working through balancing our hormones and our flight and fight response. So let's get happy and less grumpy. Sorry, that was probably not the words to use. So we already talked about lemon balm, lemon verbena or lemongrass, milky oats, Tulsi's, and a few others. Here's a few more of our mood boosting herbs that can really kind of support you. St. John's wort in a tea or tincture it's actually a lovely tea. It doesn't turn bright red, but it is a lovely tea. And we're harvesting the top third of that plant as it's flowering, and you can either dry it and make a tincture out of it, or dry it all the way and make a tea. If you were using it as a infused oil for nerve pain, burns, vulnerary, all of that, you're going to actually harvest it and let it dry just a little bit, make sure it's not wet in any way, shape, or form, and do a sun oil infusion of that. So you get that really bright red, which is the hypericum that's coming out. So this one is wonderful for mild to moderate depression. Again, this is contraindicated with somebody that is already on an SSRI, the serotonin uptakes. We really want to help people that are either, it's not our job to get them off the medicine, but if they want support with that, you can play with St. John's wort to help them kind of balance out their nervous system that way. So wonderful for seasonal affective disorder. And I also love to take it as a nerve tonic. And nerve pain like shingles or probably should take it because I have all these really fun ouchies in my mouth, canker sores, and any kind of herpes zoster or herpes virus that's in the body. We can work with St. John's wort with this. Yeah, the big contraindication is that anytime you're taking St. John's wort, things are going to speed up going through the liver. So any medications, including birth control, it's gonna go a little bit faster. So you want to be a little bit cautious with people that are on meds on this one. And I sent that chart a while ago, and that had a really pretty spelled out on, this herb with this medication is a no-go. So. But it's a lovely herb, but I do challenge people to take it if they're not in one of those classifications, because people are like, oh, if it's that bad, but it's actually a wonderful herb to kind of support and move the body through a lot of that season. It's that brightness that we need. All right, mimosa bark and blossom. This is what I'm crossing my fingers. I just checked yesterday that we could do our flower essences out of. I'm hoping, because this one is one of our most. It's not even it's uplifting, but it's also like that energy of release and that energy of I always say magic, because it's like it can release things that are trauma patterns, things that we're holding in really tight. It's like when you have your eye on the prize and it doesn't happen, like for whatever reason, this is a great one to like really work with. And the bark is more effective there's more constituents in the bark for the mood lifting, the anxiety, and the emotional tension. But those flowers, like, you cannot stuff your face in those flowers and have that grape, cotton candy, whatever smell it is, and not have that rise of your happiness. And so I do use this one when people have grief. That's what I was saying, Mindy, this would be a good one for your situation, and emotional tension. So it's like that. I just don't know what to do now. I have this loss. I'm not sure. I feel uncomfortable being in my own uncomfortableness, and that's where, like, when those feelings arise, it's not mitigating those. It's just helping you see the lighter side of things. And that's why it's such an amazing flower essence. So then we have wood betony. It has a tinge of bitterness on it, but you can do it as a tea, and blue vervain. And these are my tight folks. These are my tight ones with their tight muscles. I use wood betony. Blue vervain is more for my type A folks that are making lists and like obsessive about them. For me, it's just anybody that has tension in their muscles, especially their neck and their back. This is a nice one. And they're also more in their head than their hearts. And so when they're trying to find clarity or they're dreaming, they're like, no, I have to make a list before I even dream it up. So this will help people dream it, and then they can do their next steps, and a lot of times, often we can also use this just a quick sublingual. So having like a little bottle of this, if you're like really tense about something, just being able to tuck it under your tongue. The other one I use this a lot of times with is motherwort, and these can be easily combined. So motherwort's going to bring you back down in your body, and this is going to help with the relaxation of the muscles, which obviously I need. Rose, any of the rose species, even the non-fragrant ones, although I'm very partial to the fragrant ones because of that energy, that lift. This is our ultimate clearing of negative energy and balancing of our spirit. It's that rose-colored glasses. It's us able to see the next side. It's us being able to deal with the step in front of us so that we can get to the next step and the next step. And again, this is one of our best grief herbs. So having a little bit of this with us, and a lot of times I'll use it in multiple ways. It's a little astringent, so it's going to be a little bit drying if you try it as a tea. So if I make a tea, like say I make St. John's wort and mimosa bark and wood betony tea, I'll just add a sprinkle of rose in there, because it's not really we don't really want it for the medicinal properties. It's more the mental properties. Any questions about the mood lifting teas? And we'll talk more about these on Saturday about the growing and harvesting, because they're all Well, the rose is not right in front of us, but everybody else is. All right, cool. So now we're going to move on to sedative herbs. And these are the ones, caveat, valerian. I wanted to put an asterisk, but my internet was sloppy. Well, we had the wonderful experience together with California poppy, but it is a sedating herb, and passion flower and skullcap and hops and valerian. So these are my ones we can grow pretty easily, or just show up at Renee's house and just bring our jars. All right, our sedative herbs. So these are, so they're either a pathway of relaxation or they're just going to knock you out, like whatever you need. And this is where we start to learn about, everybody has their own level. You know, I could say, you know, Mindy, you can take 20 drops of this, you know, 3 times a day of, say, for example, if you were having a lot of rage, so passion flower rage. So if you have a lot of that, I might say take this 20 drops every 3 hours, you know, or as needed. But somebody like Katie, she might try to take that and she'll be like asleep in a chair drooling. It really is one of those things. The herbs work differently in every single body and every single body system. So it depends on what we're using for them, for the herbal actions. Like I want to help this person sleep. So then we're not so worried about if we overdo it a little bit. You know, if they're sleeping really soundly and they wake up with like a little bit of grogginess, not like complete grogginess, that might be a good thing. Okay, so then we're going to dial it back a little bit. But for somebody that's like, oh, I took it and did nothing, especially when we're talking about more of our sedative herbs, then maybe we can up the dosage and see. Passion flower is a really nice one to play with this because it's not overly sedative ever. It's just like a gentle, like I always talk to it, it's like that gentle like release of all the body systems. So it's also an antispasmodic. So if anybody's having that like tight tension or flickeries or cramps or something like that, or even a cough, I often use passion flower. I have a combination of skullcap, passion flower, hops, and California poppy by my bed at all times, and I'll use this for a multitude of things. Racing thoughts, because I'm going to use the skullcap, and I have it as a mixture. You know, I'm just like, okay, well, this will help me sleep. Valerian, and then the passion flower is just like helping me relax and get into my body. Hops is one of those that's bigger, a little more sedative, and so you want to kind of like, all right, let's figure this out. Or stress-induced insomnia, like I can't sleep because I'm worried. I can't sleep because of this. And also the menopausal insomnia. I jumped around a little bit.
So are all of these as a tincture then that you have that you?
These are, yeah. So all of these are really bitter or stinky or gross. So I'm going to do these as a tincture. I have had teas that have hops in them. I've had teas that have like our Sleep Guide Wonder Tea does have skullcap and passion flower, but I will say that both of those are more effective as a tincture.
Okay.
So let's go back to skullcap. We always think of it as the skull cap. I always think of it as like the curtains, pulling the curtains to tune everything else out. Whether that's, I'll take 15 drops just to make my mind stop so I can think again, or because I'm agitated or there's just something going on. I take this a lot around my kiddo because he likes to poke me too many, like poke and prod me and try to agitate me. So this just kind of helps me stay there. If you, like I said, if you overtake it, it can be a sedative, but I'm talking like 10 to 15 drops, you know, before, like as I'm making dinner, I'm doing too many things at once. It's a wonderful one. You can also use it for headaches, tension headaches, or people that have that sensory overload headaches, like I think the one time it was most effective for me, we went and saw like a Spider-Man movie that was just like this, like it was overstimulation. And, you know, we saw it at night, we got home at 11. I was like, all I'm seeing is screen. Like, I don't even know. And so this, you guys can't see me, but I'm like doing the whole, like in front of my face. But yeah, this was wonderful. It really helped me like just kind of take a deep breath, help me just relax and go to sleep. Passion flower, I love to use this one. People that are like right on the edge of losing their shit. That's the only way. Because it's not just working on the mind, it's working on the whole body. So you think about it and you're like sitting there, like, let's just have this. And you, again, this is another one that you can take as a tea, but you're going to have to combine it with something else. It's not super tasty.
Okay, I have to say, you're
just-
describing also what I might need.
Yeah. Minnie's like, can I
On
just
the
have
right
all
topic tonight.
yeah, I know. But yeah, so that's just like that edge where you're just like, okay, I don't want to yell. I don't want to get angry. I don't want to have that feeling. I want to just calm down. And you do have to like remove yourself from the situation. Like, it's not going to be like, it's not like you can just drop fulls, as your sisters, yakking in your ear about something else. That's not what you got to remove yourself from the situation and like get yourself grounded. And this one really helps. Plus she's mad. I mean, you've seen her flowers. I mean, she is just trying to take us away from it all. So Kelgon, take it away moment. Hops, definitely composition is more sedative. We use this one for insomnia, stress-induced insomnia, menopausal insomnia with motherwort and passion flower. Also can be used for tension headaches. And when it's ready, there is wild hops, which is really fun to find. I was at Harper's Ferry and I was sitting on this bench and I like reached back and something like grabbed me because they're really sticky. And I was like, what is that? Oh my God. And it was all wild hops, which looks different than our hops. But still, it's a beautiful plant. It is, if you do grow it, please just put it in a bucket or a big planter or whatever it is. I have, out of one plant, 1 4-inch plant 3 years ago, I have now like 1,000 of them, and they don't transplant well, which is annoying. So once you have it, but it's a great, like when we go to John's, it's just a nice, like if you have it in a box, it'll stay in the box, but as soon as you let it roam wild, it'll roam wild. So, and you do want to harvest it when they're full of the yellow powder, which is known as the lupulin, which gives it that sticky, that's where it's really the medicine is. So I'm gonna pause, take a little step here. Okay, valerian has been used for millennia as a sedative, anxiolytic, and antispasmodic. I find it most useful with a star for insomnia, with anxiety, and if the person's face and tongue are pale. When we haven't really done tongue diagnosis, but we'll start to move towards that in the last couple months of our class. But when a person's pale and they're a little more like, they're almost sedate, but they're still not sleeping. It's that real deep internal, they don't have the energy. They're not like a passion flower. They're real passionate. They're like the ones that are like, kind of like, yeah, I don't sleep. And you're like, how do you not sleep? You seem like you're sleeping right now, So it can do that. It also helps reduce long sleep latency and improves sleep quality of people that have anxious or muscle tension. The one thing with valerian is it's not a true sedative. It actually is working on a different pathway in the system, helping people relax. And a lot of folks, it works really well for because it just helps them relax into their body. But for some people, it will actually do the opposite and it will make them feel crazy and awake. So that's, again, one of those test and be seen. But usually the people that are having that opposite effect are usually a little bit red in the tongue, red in the face. You'll see signs of heat in their body. And the cool thing is we can use something else, there's other plants that we can use to really knock them out. Thank you for our California poppy, Renee. California is related to the opium poppy, but it's not addictive and comparably feeble, meaning that it's not going to have any long-term opiate effects on you. We love to use it as a mild sedative. It's our hammock sedative. it's like for the excess yang insomnia. So like that hyper type A personality, I often put this together with passion flower and skull cap. And then anxiety and nervous tension. Apparently I wanted to talk about linden. We talked about this one last time. And this is a tree you should plant in your yards. But this is linden is a great another plant. It's pretty. This shouldn't be actually in there, but let's just reinforce this one. This one we were using as a plant for the cardiovascular system, but it's also a wonderful plant as an antidepressive, anti-inflammatory, a mild anti-anxiety herb. Plus it has all those other good things, and it just makes it's like flowers in a cup. You know, it's just like, oh, I feel really happy. And again, it's easier to grow than to find really good linden. The libraries often have linden trees in them. So, and if you have, like I said, if you can plant this one. So, all right, that's kind of all I had tonight. We're gonna reinforce a lot of this like growing habits while we're at class today. I'm gonna stop the share. Does anybody have any questions? And I know I need to make formulations, so, or get ready for Mindy's. And I'm so happy. I'm gonna try to put my video on, we'll see. If the wind blows to the left, you never know. So, all right. You guys can unmute yourselves. We'll see if we can get.
So I have my rosemary tea.
Yes. Oh, we did. So rosemary, that's so funny. I swear I put a big slide in there. I wonder if my internet crapped out during that instead of the linden. That makes more sense. Yeah, because I was gonna, yeah, anyways. So rosemary is one of our antioxidant teas, and it's our tea for remembering. And so it's one of those teas that just brightens the mind. I believe it was Shakespeare that used to wear a rosemary thing behind his ear. And the other cool thing about rosemary is that we had a guy who was traveling. He travels a lot, like international flights, and the rosemary essential oil, like as he's, it helps him. He goes, I barely have any jet lag because he's sniffing the rosemary oil. I've had multiple, I don't know what the right term is for it, but the Middle Eastern countries from Iraq and Qatar, like all those cool places where they're like, oh, do you have any rosemary essential oil? And I'm like, what do you know that I don't know? Because it's just a general uptake. It's also one of those great plants to have as an antioxidant for the brain, just really kind of helping clearing. It's one of those that's a little bit trying. Same thing with sage. So you want to be a little bit careful with it because it can dry somebody out. So I never make a full formulation of rosemary tea, but I'm curious what you guys are tasting with it if you have it.
Rosemary is my favorite. That's why when I saw this tonight, I was like, ooh, but I'd never made a tea out of it before.
Yeah.
So I used and then I actually brought the sprigs in because I like to keep them. I think I've told you guys before, like the year that I had to teach virtually was like the worst year of my life. And so I got into the habit of having these on my desk because when I'd start to really lose my stuff, I would just breathe that. And honestly, I think rosemary's, kind of like the holy basil for you is what really got me interested in herbs, because I thought there's something about this, like this just makes me happy if I smell it. But I'd never put it in a tea till tonight. So and now I'm just drinking it. I was waiting for the moment where you said, drink
I know. Sorry about that. I've just been sipping it all night.
I think I'm going to do this. I mean, I think it's a great idea because
you're getting those antioxidants.
That is definitely my tea.
Yeah,
my herb, I should say.
Yeah, you should take that on with your flight too. Just put a little. I always just bring herbs with me, so that like when I go to Starbucks, I'll make them do a chamomile or a mint tea, and then I'll add whatever in there.
Mhm.
Often for me, it's a little bit of passion flower or skull cap or something, depending on the timing of the day. Just
And I
help with
could
my,
totally put a sprig of rosemary in some tea. I never even, why did I not think of doing this? So,
happens.
Mm.
Any other questions or comments?
Did you just want me to shoot you an email that says about the evening primrose oil? What do you want that to say? Just
No, you're fine.
remember
I'm
that,
gonna make
or-
it, I just more just like right now, just bring it up so I can write it down.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna add that to our other thing. So. Yeah, okay. And then, yeah, because I know I have a couple, oops, I know I have a couple other things I need to get done, but you know, I'm just gonna throw the new sweet person to the, be like, just do this, be my hands, be my brain.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you guys for joining me tonight. I apologize for the, as you guys know, the fun difficulties of living in a small, very rural. I mean, I can't see anything outside of Mercer right now. But it's getting dark at 8:30. It feels so weird. So weird. It's
Yeah.
throwing me. So great. Well, we'll see everybody on Saturday at 9:30 at the Rappahannock Park. And just, if you don't mind, just making sure you eat, I'll send their WhatsApp, but I'm asking everybody to bring a blanket that they can lay on, and some other things so that we can get a little bit more in connection with the plants on a deeper level. So
Sounds good.
yeah, and if you fall asleep, it's okay. There's no judges.
Cool.
All right, everyone. Thank you again. Enjoy your night.
Night.
Take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.